Good afternoon, everyone. In Hong Kong for a meeting this morning, we're going to talk about the losses globally of the wheat crop this year. As you know, there have been losses continentally across our entire planet. What they're not talking about is the wheat protein content. It is so poor this year that it's coming to an all-time record high. The miller's wheat premium on the regular wheat that is of such poor quality, almost all of it has been relegated to animal food for this year. So anything you're going to buy made from wheat, expect price rises, double price.
And please remember to subscribe to Adapt 2030. Wheat is one of the world's most sought-after grain crops. Any effect in the wheat production globally, and we're going to have price rises across the board for everything you consume. Taking a look at Western Australia, they lost 40% of the wheat production this year. It actually turned out to be 50% after all the totals came in. What this is doing is elevating the milling wheat premiums because China lost wheat production. They're looking for high protein content wheat. The French production was so low this year with such poor quality that the Egyptians didn't even want to bid on it. This is having an unusually high wheat quality premium ahead. And remember, this is the focal point here. The protein content of the wheat. China was crushed with their corn production this year with all the floods in the central region that occurred earlier in the year. Also, the wheat production was down. They're getting hit with cold damage as well. And if we take a look back at Australia, the totals are 50%. If you look through Google, do your own research. Frost damage. Over half of Western Australia's grain crops. Now we'll go over to India, which you don't hear much about. Wheat is termed Rabi, their type of wheat that they grow for flour milling. Insufficient this year to meet demand. They're going to have to import wheat flour as well. They're looking for 25 million tons on the market. We're taking a look at the CME, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. It's the largest ever price gap between U.S. wheat and European wheat. U.S. wheat's low price, European wheat's incredibly high priced, all because of the floods this year, taking the French crop down back into the 1970s level, along with German losses and other areas that are growing wheat across Europe. And I do encourage you to do research on this as well. Google term, French wheat losses 2016. You're just going to come through a plethora of articles on the wheat harvest, damage. Now, forecasters say that French wheat's set for a comeback. I disagree. I say this grand solar minimum is going to intensify and the French wheat losses next year will be equal with this year, as well as Italy. You saw those massive floods. That's going to flood next year. You're going to see more floods across Germany. We're getting into the 200-year cycle. They call for a comeback. I'm saying no way. It's going to go back down to minimal harvests for Europe again. And that's what we saw in the modern minimum, minimal harvests in Europe. Jumping over to the U.S., we see coldest in 150 years, breaking thousands of cold records. They're already estimating a 20% loss of the hard red winter wheat across the plains states before they even really have the damage totals in. It was 4 straight days of 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit below zero temperatures. AgWeb picking up the same stories, looking about the winter wheat kill due to these abnormally low temperatures. Literally taking us back to the 200-year cold once more. And then we look over into Asia with Indonesia's demand increasing 58% year on year. Of note, the Australian wheat accounts for 36.3% of all the Indonesian imports. Western Australia, they lost 50% of their exports. Where's Indonesia going to pick up the rest? India is looking for an extra 25 million tons. There's losses across Europe, losses across the United States. This high protein wheat that everybody's looking for milling wheat is scarce in supply. There's a lot of bad quality, borderline animal feed wheat out there in the surplus. But what you look for the miller's wheat, everything you buy that's going to go up in price. In your supermarket, look for double price rises as you shop over the next 3 months. Hope you got something out of the video. Please remember to subscribe to Adapt 2030. And as we get into these losses again and again next year, this rollover year, when we start getting into the global food shortages in 2019, Bob over at Trade Genius, they are trading on the grand solar minimum losses of our global food production. Contact him. He'll be happy to talk with you, explain how the trades are going and how their signal service works.